our opening prayer. And just get still in the moment. Take a deep breath in and out. And feel what it feels like just to leave everything. My favorite, one of my favorite cards with Spiritual Soul Centers, leave everything as it is and rest your weary mind. That's really what we have to do, is to leave it. Whatever has happened up to now is complete. Whatever is yet to be is simply yet to be. But right in this moment is where we can feel possibility, or we can feel the creative nature of our soul, where we can feel at ease and at home, where we can feel love. And as we practice bringing ourselves to the moment, being exactly here, to feel that calm, we know that that is possible for every other living being. In their turmoil, in their grief, in their struggle, that bringing the attention right here into this precious moment, that ease and calm are possible in the midst of any storm. For this we are ever grateful, and so it is. Amen. Original right there. Yeah. That was the, what did you call it again?
Astro-theological folk comedy.
There it is. Only at Spiritual Soul Center. Only at Spiritual Soul Center. I forgot to take the extra cards out. Do this. All right. Here's another card. Hopefully it's not Ann Zacharias, but she's not coming up here. I love you. No worries. All right. Well, it's Carrie Okochi. Laura, do you want to read it for her?
Okay.
This is her mother. So, because she's not here today. But, yeah, I would love for you to read it for
I
her.
don't know what she wrote, so.
Well, you will now.
Since it was private.
Yeah, well, let me see. It's not private anymore.
Okay, what do you want it to be in your life for
Spiritual Soul
others?
Center. Yeah.
Stability, consistency, integrity, supportive, happy, youthful. How do you want it to feel? Safe, loved, accepted, worthy, important. How will you bless this space? Meditation, chakra awareness, singing, chanting, healing circle once a week, like Oasis at Unity. I don't know what that is, but
Yeah, that's all right.
okay, karaoke.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, there it is. So where are you, Carrie? Yeah. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. She's out of town today. Yeah.
She's in town.
Carrie, we're coming for you. It's always great to hear what people write on those cards, isn't it? So thanks, Laura, for reading it. Yeah. So I've been talking from this book, The Dharma in Difficult Times by Stephen Cope. And in this book, he bases this, his understanding and his wisdom on the story in the Bhagavad Gita. And in the Bhagavad Gita, we have Arjuna, who's the warrior. We have Krishna, who's his charioteer. And Krishna is really God, okay, riding with him. And Krishna is between these two warring factions, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And they're about to fight this epic battle. And even though Arjuna knows that he is born to be a warrior, he cannot fight. He's like, and he falls to the bottom of his chariot and he says, I can't do it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You know, if I fight for one side, I kill my relatives on the other side, and vice versa. So what am I supposed to do here? That's the question in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna then answers for Arjuna and leads him into an understanding. So the last 2 weeks I've been talking about the first two things that Krishna tells Arjuna. And the first one is, seek refuge in me. Seek refuge in me. In other words, be quiet and go within. Because that's the seat of wisdom. Whatever you call it, if you call it God, if you call it Holy Spirit, if you call it self, if you call it divine mind, if you call it love, whatever your name is for that, stop. The first step in action is actually inaction, is to stop and to be still. And that's what Krishna advises Arjuna to do. The second step I talked about last week then, because we don't stay there, we are ready to take some action. And his guidance was simply this: look for the precise place in what is in front of you where you can relieve the sorrows of the world. Like wherever that is. You don't have to look somewhere else. You don't have to wait for a time when you're ready. But just to look whatever is in front of you and find that precise place where you can contribute in alleviating the sorrows of the world. Remember that from last week? Have you been looking about life that way? And what I said was, you've got to be willing to follow where life takes you. You've got to be willing to just look at where you are. Because it's not about getting to somewhere else to do that. Like, I'm looking for my Dharma, and I don't know what it is. And then you're passing all your Dharma possibilities because you're not finding the precise place for you and for me to be plugged into whatever that is. So we have to be present to life. We have to follow life. And really what Cope talks about is these times in our life that are disorienting dilemmas. And that's where Arjuna is. He's in this disorienting dilemma. He doesn't know what to do. Have you ever felt that way? You have uncertainty, you have doubt, you're not sure. And what Cope suggests is that every disorienting dilemma in our lives is a spiritual crisis. It's a spiritual calling. It has really nothing to do about the thing out here. It has everything to do with me evolving as a spiritual being. My soul evolution, your soul evolution. That's what it's really about. This disorienting dilemma. I love that, don't you? Have you been remembering that? Been noticing how many there are in my life? So how often I can practice becoming my soul expanding or understanding something that I don't understand today. Yeah, disorienting dilemma. So what's the next step? So we have this, we're finding this place, we've settled down, we found this place, we're looking around, we see where that place is, that precise location where it is, and now what's next? Well, before I tell you that, I want to read this story from the first book he wrote, using Arjuna and Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita as his basis for a story called The Great Work of Your Life. And he tells this story about a Hindu god. And I want to share this with you. It's the god Indra. Indra was the thunderbolt god, the greatest god in the ancient Vedic pantheon, which emerged at the dawn of yoga metaphysics in India at least 3,000 years ago. So Indra, this god, lived in the clouds at the peak of Mount Meru, the most sacred mountain of Hindu tradition. Meru is considered the center of the world in Vedic cosmology. What a great place for a great god to reside, right? That's Indra. So, around his celestial home, Indra had flung a vast net out from the top of this mountain, right? A web stretching out infinitely in all directions. Each vertex or node of this net was held together by a glittering jewel. There were infinite nodes, and so there were infinite jewels. What does it mean? Just this. Each gem in the net represents a human soul. And though each of these jewels is unique, it also reflects in its polished surface the image of all other jewels. Each jewel in Indra's net represents both itself as a particular jewel and at the same time the entire web. So any change in one gem would be reflected in the whole. In other words, our actions, the expression of our Dharma, my actions, your actions, everyone's actions are infinitely important. They connect us to the soul of the world. They create the world. Small as they may appear, they have the power to uphold the essential order of the world. Duh! Are you feeling that? Are you feeling that? Like you are one of those, you're understanding this, right? Like you are one of those jewels. And that speaks to the essential nature of you. That speaks to the essential nature of you. This is the basis for this whole next step in Arjuna's and our journey, which is that we cannot do anything that's not connected to anything else. We do not act or speak or exist independently of anything. We are one. People want to say, what's oneness? I mean, picture Indra's net and picture the reflection of every other jewel in your jewel and vice versa. That's the way it works. It's the basis for living or evolving the way Krishna is teaching Arjuna to evolve. So we cannot separate ourselves from the whole in this case. What happens on a net when you cut a node? Any fishermen here? Anybody sew? I mean, you cut one, what happens? The whole darn thing unravels, right? The whole thing is done. It's finished. Finito. So to think that your life is unimportant is an error. It's an error way of thinking. And so what this says about our Dharma is that our Dharma is not only for us, and what we feel is our precise place to help alleviate the suffering of the world, but it is also in service to the common good. It has to be. How could it not be? If the Indra net is accurate. Let me read this. So Krishna is talking to Arjuna. He's still struggling. He's still in this moral dilemma about what to do about this battle. And he says, very shortly, Arjuna, you must make your decision. And in making your decision about how to act, you must remember this. It is not just your fate that you hold in your hands. There are hundreds of others who are crossing through this difficult moment with you. You think it's just you, but it's not. Your friends rely on you doing your Dharma wisely so that they can do theirs. Most importantly, remember this: the mark of true Dharma is that it fulfills the destiny of your soul on earth. No pressure there. But at the same time, it must also promote the good of the world. It can't just be for me. Your own fulfillment could never be for you alone. He tells Arjuna, our Dharma takes us right to the very spot where we can be most useful. And that's the key word in this message today, useful. It takes us to the precise intersection between our own fulfillment and the common good. There, we will always find our highest Dharma. That intersection of our passion, of our place in the world, and the common good as well. They cannot be separated. It cannot be separated. Our Dharma takes us to the very spot where we can be most useful. Useful! That's it. Remember the time in your life when you showed up for something and you felt really useful? Are you thinking about it? Like, maybe it was when you were volunteering, maybe you were teaching something, think of it. There was a time when you were like, man, you walk away from that and you feel like you really made a difference. That usefulness for the whole of humanity and eternity. You know, I did a soul session this week and I said, we are all a stitch in the tapestry of eternity. Like, that's us. Some of us are brown, some of us are yellow, some of us are green, whatever it is, all of it necessary for the tapestry to have its vibrancy. All of it. Just like Indra's net. Just like Indra's net. So, the problem is, you know, sometimes we feel like our life is just too small. Like, oh, I only have this. I can only do that. All right? That's what you're thinking, right? I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not Nelson Mandela. I'm not Martin Luther King Jr. I'm not... Every node in the net is a jewel that you are, and you are reflected, and they as well in you. Doesn't matter. So I ran across this on Facebook. You know, that's the Google Junior. And I found this, which exactly expresses this point. This person says, when I was 12, I babysat this girl for a few years, and she would come to me and show me her art. Drag me by the hand and point at the pieces she made during the week. And she would ask me to do the voice. And I'd put on this sportsmanship or sports announcer Olympic style voice. And be like, such form, this level of coloring, why haven't I seen such perfection in Crayola in a long time? And what's this? Why, Jeff, now this is a true risk. It seems she's made a monochrome pink canvas. I haven't seen this attempted since the winter of 1932. And I gotta say, Jeff, it's absolutely splendid. And she'd fall back giggling, and at the end of every night, she'd check in with me and say, did you really like it? And I'd say yes, and I'd talk about something I noticed, and I would tuck her in. She was just accepted into 3 major art schools. And she wrote me a letter, and inside was a picture from when she was younger. Monochrome pink. Thank you, it said, to somebody who saw the best in me. The minute you think you don't matter, you are way off course. Way off course. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? Finding as a 12-year-old, not knowing any of this language at all, and knowing your Dharma, and acting on it, not for her own good. She could have said, oh, look at this pink sheet of paper. I mean, really? This is all this kid can do? But no! She knew inside of her that it was more than just about her. Monochrome pink. Makes me want to draw one. You know what reminds me of, Alan? When I did that picture and brought to Kate's memorial service and shared shared the story about the dot in this children's storybook where the child drew a dot on a piece of paper and signed it and said, that's all I can do. Pretty soon there were dots everywhere. And then some little boy came to her and he could only, I don't remember what a line. He could only draw a line. She said, put a line on that piece of paper. He drew a line and she said, sign it. Right? Lines and dots. And pink monochrome. And pink monochrome. Listen. Sacred duty, our dharma, is the thing that if you do not do it, you will feel a profound sense of betrayal in yourself. What is your highest form of usefulness to the world? That right there, that is your duty. That is your duty. In the study of the Gita, we have seen the emphasis on this connection between one's individual calling and the calling of the common good. In the Bhagavad Gita, these two things are inseparable. Inseparable. It says this in the Gita, at the beginning, mankind and the obligation of selfless service were created together. From the beginning. That's the way it was. From the beginning. So, I told you I was going to say a little bit about Tyler McKeag. Tyler McKeag was our first songwriter here on Wednesday. And she exemplified exactly what I'm presenting to you today. That's what I think she did. She not just sang her own songs, but she told the story of her songs. So one of the songs she sang, she says, my friends told me they needed something to dance to, so I wrote a dance song. And it was a kind of a boppy, beachy song, but Tyler McKeag is not a boppy, beachy person. So she infused her soulfulness into this boppy, beachy dance tune for her friends. It was amazing. Another song she played, she said one of her friends, who is in her 20s, I don't know how old Tyler is, but she's a young woman. Her friend in her 20s lost her mother recently. She wrote a song for this friend, which she sang at this friend's mother's funeral. She wanted to comfort her. She wanted her to feel hopeful. And she sang that song for us. My eyes were, maybe some of you others were here, were weeping. Because I felt that. I felt that, what she had to give. And she didn't just share those songs either. She shared a little bit about her life. And she shared that she grew up pretty humbly to a single mother. And her mother had all these different jobs. And so she would take her with her different places. And one time they were living in a one-bedroom apartment, so she didn't have her own room. And she was explaining this because there was a line in her song about being in a closet under the stairs, and she didn't want to get us the wrong idea. She wanted us to really understand something about her. Well, the closet under the stairs was a closet that held a water heater. But there was enough room in there for her to play. And that's where she used to go. So one day she comes home and there's a sign on the door there saying, you cannot enter, this is off limits right now, can't go in here. And she's like, Mom, you know. Well, what her mother had done, unbeknownst to her, after she got in there a few days later, is she painted the whole inside of it. Not only did she paint it, she painted windows with scenes in the windows. So that it looked like she was looking outside. Right? She really bared herself to us. Somebody one of us asked her, you know, how can you be so vulnerable? You know, what is it like to be vulnerable? You know what she said? It's just part of the job. Like, it's part of what I do. That's part of what it is to be a songwriter. That was Tyler McKeag. She shared that she wanted her music to mean something. She wanted to mean something to somebody, somewhere. Like, isn't that her dharma? I don't think anybody was there would say, yeah, but that wasn't really her. Like, that's her dharma. Not just for herself, though, but in service to others. I think we look for these big things. Like, we have to have this big hero kind of thing. The woman in the story that had the Olympic sportscaster voice, that's a hero. Tyler McKeag, in offering this to someone in need, whether it's a need to dance or the need to grieve, to offer that, that's huge. Those are the heroes. Those are the people living their dharma. Those are the nodes in that net that have thousands of facets. Those people. And it's us as well. It's us as well. So there is no small life. There is no small life when we're living your Dharma. There is only a useful life. To feel useful. And it all matters. It all matters. The smallest thing matters. I hope you know by these stories. The smallest thing matters. You know, from last week when I read this, I think it's important to revisit. Every action we take has an effect on the entire field of mind and matter. Picture the net. Everything we do, everything we say, how we carry ourselves has an effect on the whole. Every action we take matters absolutely, with no conditions on that. Absolutely. Our every action begins a chain of events that leads both the individual and society, either toward happiness and fulfillment or unhappiness and suffering. Could we measure ourselves by that every day? Where am I leading myself and others? To happiness and fulfillment or unhappiness and suffering? I don't know that there's another choice. Every action, no matter how small, ripples through the universe and is cause of a subsequent series of actions. A to B to C to D, no exceptions. That's why it's so important what you do. It's so important that you show up. It's so important that you meditate. It's so important that you dedicate something to your spiritual life, because it doesn't end and begin with you. That's what changes the world. You must not worry whether the desired result follows from your action or not. Let me say that again. You must not worry that you actually see the result that you expect from your action. It's irrelevant. As long as your motive is pure and your means are correct, things will come right in the end if you take care of the means and leave the rest to God. Leave the rest to the pulse in the universe that is this. Couldn't think of the word, so you fill in the blank. Yeah. Take refuge in me. Find that precise spot where I can alleviate the sorrows of the world. And know that it's not just for me, but for in the entire creation. Yeah. So we're going to do a little meditation right now. So take a deep breath and maybe today I'm so drawn in by Indra's net. If there's a visual, especially if you're a visual person, that net and those gems, are they the same color? Are they different colors? Can you see that there's no end to the net? That there are multifaceted gems at every node. Every gem representing a soul, me included. I am essential. What I am here to be and do matters. It matters in my life, my personal life. And it matters to the whole. It is absolutely important. So with a deep breath in and out, let's sit just for a little while in this precious moment now.
frog sitting in the waiting position, looking at the screen, totally brown. He was dried up. I'd obviously made a mistake and shut him in that window. So I cupped him in my palm, take him to some kind of proper funeral. But on the way, something made me stop by the sink. And I decided if I had been stuck in that window and dead, I would probably want somebody to pour some water on me before something happened. So I poured a little bit of water on this frog. And then I felt a little heartbeat in my hand. So I grabbed up a big bottle of spring water and I headed out on the porch. I poured some in an empty pot bowl. Put a fuzzy geranium leaf in the middle. I set the little frog on top. And I poured a little bit of water. I said a little prayer in mumbo jumbo. A little more water. A little more. And then I took my finger and softly just rubbed his little back. And he stretched out one of his feet. And I kept pouring a little drop or two and rubbing. And he was getting greener and fatter by the second. The left leg was stretched out. I couldn't even believe what was happening. I hadn't even unloaded car cargo, was still open. Keep pouring, and finally the little frog opened his eyes and turned around and looked at me. And he jumped off. Never give up. That hand's coming in the window for you. Small things do matter. Thank you all for letting me be here today with you. I'll play some chords.
Let's pray as we do at the end of our time together. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy. Amen. Ah.